Excellent. We are now live on Facebook, and thank you for those joining us via the webinar. I'd like to begin the program by saying hello and welcome to a special Jefferson Educational Society virtual event, Goncharenko Centres Network, bringing education to the people of Ukraine in times of peace and war. I'm Ben Spegan. I'm the Vice President of the JES, a nonpartisan think tank headquartered in Erie, Pennsylvania, offering world-class programming, publications, and plenty more worldwide. Joining me here are representatives of the Goncharenko Center, an educational and cultural resource with hubs in more than 30 cities and towns across Ukraine, with the mission to bring free, high-quality education to Ukrainians who need it. The largest non-governmental network of educational, cultural, and volunteer spaces, the organization has been successfully developing Ukrainian education since 2021, having already united some 1 million learners. Before I turn things over to our guests, I want to go through some housekeeping. We are hosting this event both via Zoom webinar and are live streaming on the JES's Facebook page. If you are attending via Zoom, please feel free to interact with us using the Q&A function, as we are welcoming questions from you, the viewers. If you're tuning in via Facebook, leave your questions and comments in the comment section of this post. We'll work our way through as many questions as we can following the presentation. If you're listening to or watching this program on demand at a later time and date, still send us your questions and comments to keep this conversation going either on the JES's Facebook page or YouTube channel. And for more information about upcoming JES programs and publications and more, visit jeserie.org. Be sure to like us on Facebook, connect with us on LinkedIn, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. The Goncharenko Centres network started its operations in 2021 and since has launched into that 30-plus cities and towns center of hubs across the country, with its main mission always having been to provide free, high-quality education to Ukrainians who need it wherever their location is, and the Russian full-scale invasion didn't stop it. Here to discuss their network's history and development, obstacles in the center's operation, and the way that the Russian invasion has redirected their work, we welcome Maryna Karlevits, Yulia Zaev, and Valery Karachuk. Now, Maryna is a foreign policy advisor of the Ukrainian member of parliament and founder of the center. She's previously worked at Diplomatic Academy under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine and as an English tutor. She has a background and she has such a background that has made her into one of the most ardent supporters of bringing high quality education to Ukrainians of all ages, but primarily young people, so that they could work for the bright future of their country. Yulia is a PR specialist with the centers in the network. She has a bachelor's degree in international communications and, like no other, understands the importance of public relations for the successful operations of NGOs, non-governmental organizations. She is the person behind making the network recognizable and bringing a sign of quality to its name. Valeria is the International Projects Coordinator for the Center's network. She has started her career path from political school UA lead in the Goncharenko Center in Kyiv, where 30 brightest young people interested in international relations got acquainted with different career paths in front of them. Currently, she makes sure that the network teams up with international educational institutions, other NGOs, and individuals who are eager to support Ukrainians in these difficult circumstances. Maryna, Yulia, Valeria, welcome, welcome, welcome. I want to turn things over to you to learn more about your center and the work you're doing.
Yeah, so thank you for such a bright presentation of us. We are very happy to be here. And I think I will start by sharing the screen of my presentation. And we'll start actually getting the attendees of this webinar acquainted with what our center basically does and how it started its operation. So can you see my screen well? Okay. So the history of Goncharenko Centres network began in 2019, as you have already mentioned, when Ukrainian MP Oleksii Goncharenko gathered a team of like-minded people, and they basically had the idea of teaching English for free in some remote villages of Odessa region, namely Podilsk and Balta. In less than 2 years, it became clear that the demand for quality free education in Ukraine was much greater. And in February of 2021, a completely innovative for Ukraine project was born, a network of educational and cultural spaces called the Goncharenko Centres. So the first to receive visitors were the educational hubs in Podilsk and Balta, located in Odessa region. But later, the Goncharenko Center started opening outside the region and became a nationwide project, now operating in the east, west, north, and center of Ukraine. And the basis of every Goncharenko Center is teaching for free Ukrainian and English language for the regular visitors of centers, for both children and adults. But that's not all. Among languages taught at different Goncharenko centers, so there are German, Polish, French, Spanish, Turkish, Italian, Japanese, and even Chinese. It all depends on the demand of the visitors of the Goncharenko centers, and also on the availability of tutors who will teach these languages for free. And besides the language courses, the basic set basically includes financial literacy, digital security. We teach digital security together with the Cisco Academy instructors and career guidance programs. So far, we have 34 Goncharenko centers operating throughout Ukraine, and they serve as open educational and cultural hubs in different parts of Ukraine. Our network successfully operates not only in large cities and regional centers, but also in small communities. For example, one of the latest Goncharenko centers opened in Biliki, which is a settlement in Poltava region, and it has a population of 4,700 people. Basically, people there, they just wanted some entertainment, and the government, the local government of that settlement, they came to us and they said, we have this building, we want you to use it and bring entertainment and education to our place. So we did. In the first 3 years of the project, the centers have united 600,000 Ukrainians. Among our partners, we have the University of Pennsylvania, and together we also taught English language. Cisco Systems, Lord Michael Ashcroft, Konrad Adenauer Stiftung, the Armed Forces of Ukraine, the State Emergency Service of Ukraine, and some other organizations. Obviously, after the beginning of full-scale invasion, the activities of our centers had to be expanded to include volunteering, and so our spaces became a place of unity for thousands of volunteers. They began to help internally displaced persons and military men, and so on and so forth. And here on the right, I'm sorry, you can see some volunteers coming to the center in Odessa and weaving camo nets. Some of the centers also are equipped with 3D printers, and they from time to time print the needed military details. And we also raise millions of hryvnias to help the army. For example, among the latest instances of raising funds, we raised funds for charging stations for tank drivers, and I think we finished it on October the 1st, and it's actually a day when we celebrate our defenders. And also on the 16th of September, it's the birthday of the founder of this network, Oleksii Goncharenko. We were raising funds for thermal cameras, for marine drones, for border guards stationed near the Black Sea. Moving on, for security reasons, the project team closed the centers in the frontline cities like Liman, Kramatorsk, Konstantinivka, but a team of teachers remained, and this is how Goncharenko Center Online started its operation. This free online platform has become the flagship of our educational project. It has been in operation for 2 years already, and 900 online events with 30 instructors are being held monthly. And here on the screen, you can see that 16,000 people are undergoing training, but actually this presentation was made last month, and now the number is higher. We have 24,000 participants this month undergoing training on this platform, and we welcome at least 1,000 new students each month, but sometimes the numbers are bigger. Living and work conditions obviously has changed the needs of the population regarding education and entertainment. So our project have changed accordingly. Goncharenko Centres became pioneers in teaching a specialized English course for the military of the armed forces of Ukraine. And so far, 2,500 soldiers have already completed the course, connecting either directly from the trenches, hospitals, or training centers. These courses are ongoing, so we expect many more graduates to come. We also provide free English training to employees of the State Emergency Service of Ukraine. Special courses for rescuers are held both offline and online, and it follows a specially prepared program that will help our emergency workers communicate better with their foreign colleagues. And some free English courses are also taught for the internally displaced persons to strengthen their position in the labor market and to reduce the general unemployment rates in Ukraine. A separate area of work of the Goncharenko Centres is providing free legal aid for military personnel, for their families, for internally displaced persons, and for Ukrainian refugees. And this is a responsibility of a separate legal Goncharenko Center. The history around this center started with the director of the Goncharenko Center in the city of Kryvyi Rih. He was a lawyer by profession, and it became a hobby of his to just provide free legal aid after the start of the full-scale invasion. And he was very good at it, and the demand was very big. So he decided to just remade his Goncharenko Center into a legal one, and have also engaged some other lawyers to provide free legal assistance to, as we can see, more than 75,000 Ukrainians. We also have a Plus Plus initiative, which is aimed at supporting women from military families. This project provides comprehensive legal and psychological assistance to wives, mothers, daughters, and sisters of Ukrainian soldiers. We have managed to form a community of more than 5,000 heroic women who are enjoying a range of services. And this range of services, it depends fully on the women. Some women are coming to us and they ask for psychological therapy. Some women are just bored while waiting for their loved ones, so they want to start something new, to learn how to start a business or to learn a new skill, or just to mingle with people at our centers. And here on this page, we also have some photos from the political school, which has been mentioned earlier, and I would ask Maryna to tell more about it.
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Valeria, for giving the floor. Yeah, so the main idea of this political school, which was called Lead UA, the main idea was to collect all of the experiences that we had in our team when we were joining starting our political careers, and to tell the young generation about it more. So, because when you're just graduating, when you're finishing your studying, you never know where you're supposed to go and where are you supposed to start your career. So what we did is actually we gathered 35 people from all over Ukraine, and we told them about the opportunities that they have right now, about the opportunities which they can have in the future. We invited the members of the parliament of Ukraine as well as the foreign politicians who shared their experiences, and we made this project possible with the support of Konrad Adenauer Stiftung in Ukraine. And currently we are preparing the second edition of this school, and we're going to make it even larger. So what basically students are learning at this school is that how can they start their career in the political sphere, in diplomacy, and also in the analytical sphere. This year, we're going to add some more spheres where people can work. We're also talking about the opportunities which they have now in terms of internships, like some fellowships which they can take. And also, this is, of course, a networking event. So that's the main idea, to bring people together offline. So that they can get to know the politicians whom they usually see on the social media or on the TV, and to talk to them, to ask about their experience, and to get some extra motivation in the middle of the cold weather that we're having soon in Ukraine. So yeah, we're preparing it for this year. We hope that this is going to be the long-lasting project, and we're creating the community of young, motivated professionals who are going to work in Ukrainian politics, diplomacy in the future.
Yeah, thank you so much for explaining it further. And if I may add, actually, this UALIT school is what kickstarted my career in politics and in international communications and cooperation. And right now, I'm responsible for managing international projects within the Goncharenko Centres network. So I think the efficiency of these projects, they speak for themselves. And to finish this all, I would say that despite the full-scale war and constant shellings, for example, this Monday we had aeroballistic missiles, Kinzhals, following to Kyiv in the morning. We continue to do our job and do it well. Our centers operate steadily both in the rear cities and in the settlements near the front line. We work wherever there is a demand for quality-free education, and we will continue to work as we believe that everyone should have access to it, regardless of the size of the settlement. So thank you very much. I will probably stop sharing. Maybe people can take a screenshot of the screen to maybe not lose our email address. But besides that, I think that sums up our introduction.
So to all of you, thank you so much for sharing that, and I really appreciate the overview. And as we were beginning the program, I had said just how much I admire the work that you do, and I think also the size and scale at which you do it, despite the challenges clearly present in front of you. Both from beginning during amid a pandemic to now the full-scale invasion of your country from Russia. You had mentioned your founder, Valeria, and I wanted to ask a little bit more about him because I had the chance to meet him in April of 2024 this year when thankfully Dr. Alina Sortsko-Harned, a professor at Penn State Barron in Erie, Pennsylvania, also a JES scholar in residence, had helped coordinate a trip while he was in the United States to come to Erie, Pennsylvania. That's where I learned about your centers and the work you're doing. Tell us a little bit more about your founder, why launching such a program was important to him, his involvement and roles in it today. Let us get to know your founder and leader a little bit more.
I believe this will be the question which I can answer better, as I'm working with Oleksii on a daily basis. And I believe, Ben, we also met because I was together with Oleksii during this trip in Erie. It was like a great opportunity to know the city, even though we unfortunately came there only for half of the day. So basically, Oleksii, as the politician, he has always been interested in politics since the very since his young years, as far as I know. So that has been like a really important part of his job in order to tell young people more about the opportunities that they have and about the opportunities which you have when you learn English, for example, when you learn the foreign languages, when you learn some extra knowledge that you can have beside your classroom. And the initial idea of Goncharenko Centres was to bring English language to the small towns and villages in Ukraine, because in the big cities you always have the access to the courses, to the extra classes, but you don't have such opportunities in the smaller areas. and later the network expanded to the bigger cities. And so yeah, that was the main idea, and one of the things which Oleksii is promoting as the Ukrainian politician is that there is a common stereotype about the politics, that politics is not very good and that it's not very honest or something like this. That there is the stereotype that you can't enter, like you can't achieve anything if you don't have the proper connections when somebody asks for you or something. So with his example, he's showing that this is a stereotype. And one of the ideas is that he wants to give it also to the young people. So that's one of the ideas of working with the young generations, and that's why he's like largely involved into talking to the students around the world. So while he's traveling to the other countries, so he's been like a guest lecturer to many prominent universities in the United States as well. So yeah, that's the idea. And the main idea is that education is the key to everything. Education is the key to developing the country. So we will not be able to make our countries better and the life of our people better if we don't have the access to the proper education. So that's like, this is a simple idea that everyone deserves the access to education, and everyone deserves the free access to education, to the quality education. So that's the main idea behind the Goncharenko Centres. And I'm sure that's for in the recent years we have been doing a great job in this term. And of course, with the full-scale invasion, the centers, they somehow also refocused also to the volunteering activities and more like largely involved with the like military topic. But this is the thing which happened to all of Ukrainians. I mean, everything that you're doing in Ukraine, it's somehow related to the military scope. And there also might be some kind of stereotypes that that you cannot be involved with the military or politics and so on, but everything is so interconnected in this world that it's impossible to stay out of any of it.
So Marnie, I was so grateful to have met you in Erie, Pennsylvania, where it was cold then. So at least we shared, I think, a
Yes.
similar climate at times, and it was I was just so moved by the energy that both you and Oleksii had, throughout the day, even just a half a day moving through, and we had such a wonderful opportunity in addition to the speaking engagement to tour Logistics Plus, and a company based in Erie, Pennsylvania, but with a footprint globally in terms of its logistics and distribution. And they have been a huge supporter of Ukraine during this war and finding ways to help. And it was powerful to see that. I appreciate you talking about Oleksii's desire to form connections or to make access easier for people, because to me, I think that's social capital building, outside of politics, and how to leverage that. And it's refreshing to see a politician take that approach. But Marnia, for you, how did you get involved in all of this work? What drew you and made you passionate about working with both Oleksii, but then also working here with the centers? Let's hear a little bit about your story.
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. So I have always been involved somehow in diplomacy and politics, because this is the thing how I believe the change can be made. So if you're not satisfied with something in your country, in your community, the only way that you can like change it is that you join the politics or the diplomacy or whatever sphere, and you're just changing it with your activities. So yeah, and this is how I got started working with Oleksii, because he's quite active in the international arena, and he needed like the person who will be handling this part of his job. And as it was mentioned in my like description in my background, I used to be the English teacher for 5 years, and I always believed that with English, so as a teacher, you never sell to your students the language learning or knowing the language. You always sell the lifestyle that the person will get when they learn English. So, because when you speak only your native language, you are limited to only people in your country who share the same language with you. When you learn the international languages, then you have the access to all 9 billion people in the world. So basically, yes. So in the centers, both of those ideas, they are just connected, and that's why we're doing what we're doing.
And I should take a moment just to thank all three of you for this presentation and conversation in English, my native tongue, and I'm apologetic that I'm not multilingual or fluent in many other languages, but you know, to put that emphasis on culture and lifestyle, and I think also just global mobility, you know, for your learners to learn English, I think is to be commended. Julia, I want to bring you into the conversation and ask your path to getting to the Goncharenko Centres network. What led you here? What keeps you passionate? What keeps you involved with this?
Yeah, thank you for this question. Well, I've always been interested in the public sector, in the education sphere. I have previously worked in such companies that promote education to the people. But being part of the Goncharenko Centres is for me being part of something bigger, something really important for Ukrainians right now in terms of war. Not only bringing the education, but also helping the military, helping the families, military families, and overall making something good in these dark times.
I appreciate that. And Valeria, you gave us a little bit of your background of how you got there, part of this learning cohort, and then launching into working with the centers. But your passion, your drive to be involved in such a thing, and then to your specific task of building partnerships and creating a network of supporters for the work you're doing. What guides you in your passion to be involved in that? And then tell us a little bit about your work in finding new partners, maintaining partnerships.
Okay, so to answer the first question, I will start my journey from the political school, which has already been mentioned twice or thrice today, which is UA Lead. I saw an advertisement of a free political school which looks for talented young people who are driven, who want to commit to change in Ukraine, who are like aiming to be young leaders. And I was interested. I applied and got accepted into this program. And I got even more interested and inspired while I was listening to different speakers during that political school. And I saw Oleksii for the first time and realized actually that he is a very inspiring person and he is a very energetic person, and he puts all of that energy into literally fighting for something greater in terms of internal politics, in terms of foreign politics, and his pace work, if you're acquainted with that, in the Council of Europe. And in the sphere of education, I was amazed that this program and all these speakers, they came here for free. No, not for free, but for us it was free. It was a free experience, which gave us a lot of knowledge, a lot of insight. And it got me interested into how can I join the team, how can I help, because I see the need in that. I see the result in that, because as we have brought up the numbers of the regular attendees of these Goncharenko centers, and these people, they are coming back for more because they enjoy it, because they learn something new. And I also have experienced a lot of gratitude from these people. And so that is one of the things that really keeps me going for more. And also it keeps you motivated to keep going when, for example, on our email, every week we receive emails from different foreigners, for example, who come to Ukraine, and their first thing they ask and they seek is that, hey, we have seen your page, we have seen your network, how can we help? We are volunteers, I'm in Odessa, I'm in Kharkiv, I'm in Kyiv, how can I help? That motivates me to keep going, and like these people are doing this for free, so to also help Ukrainians deal with this crisis at the moment. So that gives me no right to give up. That gives me more motivation to keep working, keep going. And as for my line of work in particular, it has some challenges, I'm not gonna lie, because we are a non-profit organization. So we work with either people on volunteer basis, or sometimes we work with people who want to get paid, who want to be rewarded accordingly. But with that, we have to look for financing of those opportunities, and we apply for different grants, and sometimes it may be difficult because each foundation has its own rules, whether they can give out a grant to something, whether they cannot. We apply for grants in the US, in Germany, here, and sometimes it is just difficult to understand the system, how we can make this work, but we really do want to make it work, so we try our best.
And I heard grants because I wanted to ask because I also heard free and I heard volunteer and then I also heard just impressive numbers like 900 online courses a month and the 30 plus towns and cities that you have hubs in. I heard grants in terms of the support. Do you get support from other means? How do you keep it all going?
For example, for this political school that we have mentioned, the Konrad Adenauer Stiftung gives us money to keep it going. We also supply in our joint work with the University of Pennsylvania, we are looking for grants because for the first time they worked with us for free, but now they would like to be awarded and we would like to keep working with them. So we are applying for as many grants as we can, but mostly instructors in Goncharenko Centres, they come and they teach for free because I think they have the same reasoning as me. They feel this gratification, they feel the sense of, wow, I'm doing something right. I have to keep doing it. It's my mission. And also there are some centers, they have their own benefactors. For example, the Goncharenko Center in Kyiv, we have a beautiful benefactor in the face of Lord Michael Ashcroft, who rarely but still visit our center and keeps giving us money because once again, he sees the reason behind all of this.
And I think that that's such an important thing is seeing the mission and understanding what it is that your organization does. Julie, I want to turn to you because you're in charge of making sure this work is recognizable on a national and international scale. How do you take all of what it is that you do and present that out into the world and say, despite all of the challenges and despite the conflicts, despite the war, we're doing this and we're not just doing it, but we're growing it. How do you broadcast such a message? You know, social media, emails, how do you get your organization out in front of people who may never have encountered it before?
So we're basically making a very big job in spreading our values through our social media platforms. We use different platforms, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Telegram channel. We cooperate with other channels a lot to spread more information about what we propose. And also we're working with Ukrainian media mostly in spreading the announcements of our events and spreading our big all Ukrainian projects and bringing values in our projects to the people of Ukraine.
So Back to the size and scope, there are three of you on screen today. We've talked about, instructors and volunteers, but for those unfamiliar or just coming to know the Goncharenko Centers for the first time, how large is your team that organizes this, works on this, that are spending their day job, daytime working on this? How large is your team?
Well,
Organize- Sure.
I'm not sure about the exact numbers, but if we are talking about the media department, which deals with this international connections, with getting the word out to people, there are only 4 of us. If we are talking about each center individually, there's usually a director in the center. There are 2 administrators which handle basically the scheduling of different English courses or yoga classes and so on and so forth. And we have different instructors. I think here we have up to 6 different instructors. So one teaches French, one teaches Spanish, one teaches yoga classes, one teaches English, one teaches traffic rules for those who want to get their driver's license. And yeah, but it depends on the center. Our center in Kyiv is not the largest one. The largest ones, I would say, are in Odessa. And also in Odessa, they have the biggest volunteer center. There are a lot of people coming, IDPs coming from Kherson region, who just go to these centers every day to volunteer, to weave nets, to just hang out with each other, to communicate, to feel part of a community. So it's hard to get the exact numbers, and sometimes some instructors, they may teach for some time and then leave. But yeah, it depends on the center. But as you can see, it's not a lot.
And a question coming from the audience is, how do you determine what it is that you're offering in terms of educational programming? And I think it's for the people that are hearing everything from language classes to financial literacy to, you just mentioned traffic laws and rules and yoga and other things. How do you determine what it is that you're offering to the learners that you're reaching?
So as I have already mentioned, from on the one side, it comes from the demand. Some people in some settlements, they just ask, like, can you please teach us some traffic rules? And then we go and look for people who will help us with that. On the other hand, sometimes volunteers come to us and they say, we are teachers of English, we are teachers of French, and we will do it on a weekly basis. Can I teach here people? And then we tell about the opportunity of learning French at our centers, and we have and form kind of a group. And then these lessons start. Sometimes the program comes from the instructors themselves. For example, we have our good friend, Mr. Shingelia, who is from the Cisco Academy. He reached out to us and he said, I'm ready to teach cybersecurity for free, because cybersecurity is my forte. I am good at it. I know it best. And I am able to do it for free. And we have already done finished 2 courses with him on cybersecurity with different groups, and each course had around 150 students, because we cannot also take unlimited amount of students for classes. It would be unreasonable for such cases. But yeah, it depends either on demand or on suggestions that come to us, or on the speciality of some individuals that work with us.
Thank you for that. And Maryna, I want to come back to you because somebody was asking a question about the ability to be present in both smaller communities and larger communities. And if you could just recap how you began in small to mid-sized cities and towns, and then the need to be present in larger regions as well. And then how do you balance that in terms of being in large metro centers with dense populations as well as more rural communities, providing the same sort of service that you do to both?
Yeah, thank you very much for this question. So, as I said, like the initial idea of the network was to bring the education to the smaller communities. So this is how the network started, and the idea was to bring some motivated and people who are in these communities already. So the best example is like the franchise working. So when you need to find some active person in the community whom you're going to delegate this idea, and they're going to help you to implement this idea in their community, because no one knows better what the community needs than the person who lives there. So this is how it began, with the small cities, with the villages, where like they don't have the like much access to the classes and so on. So this has started with the English classes for the small communities. And when the full-scale invasion started, everyone was volunteering. Everyone was doing their best in order to bring the like some humanitarian aid from abroad or from the western part of the country to the eastern part of the country and the south. So this is like, we understood that we need to help logistically, and this is how the bigger centers opened. But the idea of how to open the center is always to have the active person in the community. So basically, the bigger centers, they started opening after the full-scale invasion started, and they are working like the volunteering centers and so on. As the big part of the audience now is the people who are connected to the military, either the soldiers themselves or their families or their loved ones. So this is what we're doing in the bigger centers, where we have bigger capacity, more volunteers, more people, and so on. So, and this is also coming to the question of how to understand what is needed. So there is the request from the audience, there is some kind of the problem that can be solved, and we see that we can help it. And mostly this is also for bringing people together, for networking together. So for example, in the regions where the schools aren't working now, and there are some frontline cities where it's impossible to restart the school process. So some of the centers, they have this feature of giving some classes, and of course to bringing people like children together, because they need communication and they need to talk to each other and so on. So basically this is the balance. Just listen to people, trust people in what they're telling you on what they need, and just do your best after it in order to meet this this necessity.
So again, it's so impressive how much you do, and I think how responsive your organization is to hearing a need and then working to meet it. Do you all fear that at some point you get spread too thinly, that there's just too much, that that the needs are just too different from community to community? Or is that part of the glue that binds the networks together, to learn from each other, the hubs, to learn from each other from city to city, town to town, to share resources and to be able to accomplish that? But do you worry at some point, trying to rise to meet the needs, that you'll be spread too thinly?
I believe this is the idea of being able to process the requests and to be able to kickstart some changes, because we're not an English school. We're not the school that teaches the traffic rules. We don't have this accreditation, and we don't have these people who are like providing it and so on. I mean, in terms of like full-time work. So our main idea is to bring together active and motivated people, and after it, let them do these changes, make these changes in their communities, because this is what is like the main idea of the network, to bring people together and then to help those people like to move forward with the changes that they feel necessary for their community. And this is also one of the main ideas that we have for the political school, which we're doing, also to bring the young people and to tell them how to start some changes in their community, city, and the country, because they are the future of this country and they are going to be the decision makers, the policy makers, and so on. So
I think that's why I feel such a natural kinship between the work that your organization does and the work of the Jefferson Educational Society is to meet the needs of the community and to find ways to either leverage the expertise and skills of others and to expand the network rather than to try to take it on ourselves, but also, the importance of reaching people at all ages, that if young people are to be the future, what better time to engage them than now, and finding ways to motivate them and to have them be part of the conversation. It's tough not to have this conversation without talking about the war. And so I want to hear from each one of you, both just how it's affected you personally, but how it's affected the work that you do with the centers. Has it made it more challenging? Has it made it more invigorating? Has it made it for a louder call to respond to the needs of all Ukrainians? I want to hear from each one of you what that experience has been like doing this work through wartime.
I will start if I may. So I think it would be quite difficult for each one of us to gather all of our experiences, emotions, and to convey to you what is it like to live through war times. So I think we would rather focus on how it affected our work as a network. So the most obvious problem is that Russian army, they aim to destroy our basically electricity energy infrastructure. And because of that, for example, just like during the summer, no, starting from May of this year, we had blackouts and we were living by blackout schedules, basically. And of course, it may disrupt the work of our centers. Our center in Kiev and some other ones, they have power generators, so they can work full time. But some of the centers, they do not, and they're quite pricey. And obviously, there may be some organizations that need those power generators like more than us. And we try to, once again, apply for some grants to have these generators for our centers, but it's not always working. And so sometimes these centers, they work as long as there is electricity, and when there is not, they will postpone their classes and so on and so forth. I think that is the most obvious problem. And as we are moving to winter, and I do not believe that Russians will stop aiming our energy infrastructure, and I think we will return to these schedules. It will be once again a problem that we will have to deal with. I think that would be my response.
Yeah, and I can probably proceed. I think each one of Ukrainians has its own story, and it's been difficult for all of us, and it's still really difficult and hurts a lot. But I wanted to add also to the work of our network how the war affected it. I think most of our centers, with the start of the Russian full-scale invasion, turned into volunteering hubs. So we basically making camouflage nets, bringing people to make some donations for the military, also making the donation boxes with the most essential things that we bring to those people who need that. And also creating a lot of educational activities for the military and for the military families. For instance, English classes, also the psychological support, which I think is really necessary and crucial for Ukraine right now. And we're also working with veterans a lot, making them reintegrating in the Ukrainian society back when they are back from the war.
Yeah, I would just add one small thing is that each and every Ukrainian is affected this or another way by the war, and this is like the most challenging thing because living through the war, you still have to learn how to communicate with the people who are living through the war. And the fact that we are also experiencing the same as our like fellow Ukrainians doesn't mean that we necessarily know how to work with each and every of them. So it always needs it always needs to have some kind of extra attempt to find some common ground with the people. And our society is deeply wounded by the war, and we have to understand it all the time when we're making some projects and when we're talking about some new initiatives. And it also brings some difficulty in working with the international partners because you can never explain what it feels like to live through the war. One can only experience it, and God forbid anyone in other countries to experience the same thing that people are experiencing in Ukraine and in other countries that are living through the war. But the brightest quality of Ukrainians, which we actually found out ourselves since the beginning of 2022 and also since 2014, is that every time when there is like the pure evil on your land, Ukrainians are always trying their best to bring like whatever they can to help. So as Yulia already mentioned, some of the centers, they are preparing the masking nets for the soldiers, and like one of the biggest centers that is doing it is in Odessa, and they are like bringing the biggest amount of masking nets among all the volunteering hubs in Ukraine. So people are just coming there every day just to make the masking nets, and after 8, those nets are used for saving our soldiers who are fighting for our country. So as I said at the very beginning, it's impossible to divide yourself or move out from the idea of the war. And that is the thing, that Ukraine needs to be supported, and we need to support our soldiers and army in order for our country to survive. There is no other way. So that's our experience that we have here.
And I think a through line that I heard from each one of you is focusing on what unites you as Ukrainians as opposed to the differences, but not ignoring them. That this is a different lived experience from person to person, but finding, I think, that commonality and bonding together, to be able to do that. As we near the end of our time together here for this really important and critical conversation, I want to ask each one of you two things. One, what is the greatest need right now for your centers to see its bright future out? And if we were to talk again in 5 years, in 10 years, and to say, you've continued to grow and expand, what's your biggest need right now? I'd like to hear from each of you. And then what gives you the most hope that in 5 to 10 years, if we were to have this conversation again, we talk about the continued growth and success and your impact in bringing free, high quality education to Ukrainians. So what is your greatest need right now? And what is your greatest hope that you're going to get there?
I suppose I'm going to start answering that. I think those are quite difficult questions. And it is also, I think, quite hard for Ukrainians to look that far in the future, because we are right now used to just live day by day, month by month, and not knowing what will await for us tomorrow morning. But I think the greatest need for our centers is, first of all, the visitors who want to get quality education, and the people who are ready to give that quality education. So there has to be that synergy of those two providers and receivers. And the most hope for me is that there are plenty of those people, actually. And as we have seen from the numbers of the Goncharenko Center online, we had 16,000 attendees in August, And right now in October, we have almost 24,000 people. So still, I am very happy that Ukrainians, despite this hours of peril, they still strive to live. They still strive to live through this war and to become better, to get more knowledge, to become more qualified. And we are just happy to be there for them.
Yeah, yeah, thank you, Valeria. I totally agree with what you said. And also to add from my side, I think a really critical need for us is new projects, new cooperations with people from different countries as well. More people who are believing in what we are bringing to Ukrainians. And regarding your second question about hope, I think what really gives me hope is our attendees, people who come to our centers, because they have very bright eyes and a very big need to learn something. And when they are finishing some courses, they go back to their surroundings and spread what they've learned here. So those people are my hope.
I believe that we all agreed on the first question on the greatest need is the people who are motivated to help, and it can be in various. I will just expand. It can be in various ways. So if you at some point feel that you're ready for providing some English classes, for example, or just speaking clubs in English, and you happen to have like an hour free or 2 hours free, so you can also reach out to our centers, because like our attendees, they will be happy to talk, to practice their English, and to share like anything that they know. And speaking about the most hope, in the times when you every time go to bed in the evening and you don't know if you're going to wake up in the morning. So what brings me hope is the people who are living their life despite any of the challenges. And this is like the biggest spirit that is going around people in Ukraine in general, is that they are like, we are determined to live through this war, and after it to build the prosperous country that will be like successful and happy in the future. And we also like value each moment that we have.
I really thank you for that. And I know I said that was the last question, but I want to sneak one in because we have one here from the audience asking a need for ongoing psychological support. And I think that that's coming from having heard about those returning from war in talking to veterans and helping them, but also that plus initiative that you have as well. So could one of you speak to, is there a need for ongoing psychological support and how you're meeting that?
Yes, obviously there is a need for psychological support, but there are also some problems with giving that psychological support, because we gave psychological support with our foreign volunteers to some of our military men, but it is only possible if the military men, they speak English. But if they do not, we need more. I'm not sure how to even put it to words. Not programs. Maybe we need more resources into maybe building rehabilitation centers here in Ukraine. And Goncharenko Centres can become like mediators in that process. But psychological support is important, and it is important for every Ukrainian, the military men and the teenagers that wake up from explosions, and the young adults who are trying to establish themselves in this world while going to shelters from time to time. But it is a tricky question, because we, all three of us, we are speaking English and we can receive psychological support, for example, in English, but not that many people in Ukraine are fluent, actually, and we will need some additional help, for example, to translate these sessions, or maybe these like guidebooks? And also, yeah, it's a tricky question.
If I may just to add quickly on this thought, it's just a thing that came to my mind right now. So if there is any initiative that is ready to cooperate in this sphere, so please feel free to reach out to the centers and to discuss it, because mostly we also need the quality of the preparation of the psychologists and psychotherapists who are working. So many of them, they know English if they're studying now as the psychotherapists and psychologists. So this is actually what we can use is to train the psychologists who are working in Ukraine to share the experiences if like some of their colleagues abroad had such experience. And after it, those psychologists who know in Ukrainian, they will be able to deliver this help to the people in need here in Ukraine. So probably if there are any initiatives in your city or in your country, so just feel free to reach out and we will see how we can make it work.
And I think that's such a great point. And Valeria, if I can ask you, if it's not too challenging, perhaps to share that slide again at the end with your email address, because I think what I clearly heard was there are many ways that people can help support the work that it is you're doing, and it's not just by doing one thing. So if we can have that up again as we conclude, we'll certainly do that. And in fact, the person asking that question, I think wants to reach out and be able to offer some support. And of course, we are grateful for that. But really, the three of you, we are so grateful for all that you do and for taking the time to share the story of your work, the mission of your organization, as multi-pronged as it is, all the things that it does. But I think the clear thing is rising to the occasion to meet the needs of the day, and I think work to build a bright future for Ukraine, city by city, town by town, region by region. And I think I'm reminded of that even in your logo of it's a potter there building something and taking the time to craft that, of which you all are doing so well. So thank you all. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you to all of you watching along at home, whether you're tuning in, watching this in real time, or you're streaming it on demand. Folks can get more information and get in touch with the Goncharenko Centres by emailing at that address there, goncharenkocenter.com. It's an RE.com. The JES will spread that information, and we'll have more information about that on our website, including all of our upcoming programming and publication at jeserie.org. You're also going to find videos of past presentations available to stream on demand, other publications, including reports, essays, timely writing, as well as information on upcoming JES discussions. And be sure to like us on Facebook, connect with us on LinkedIn, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and find the Goncharenko Centres wherever they are, especially that email address there on your screen, folks. Again, Maryna, Julia, Valeria, thank you so much for taking the time to explain the work that it is you do and the future that you see for it.
Thank you so much for organizing this event.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Folks, for the Jefferson Educational Society, I'm Ben Spagan. Thanks for listening and learning with us.